Hey everyone, welcome to another deck tech. So today we have a special deck tech. It's the holidays. I think I made it pretty clear so far on Twitter at least that I really enjoy the Christmas season, just because it brings me back more memories of my childhood, and now I have my own kids and I enjoy spending this time with them. And I figured, why don't I try and build a modern deck that's Christmas themed, or as Christmas themed as it can be, without completely sucking and not having any viability at all in the current meta. So, this will be my first. As one of the viewers, and I can't remember your name, I'm very sorry, you made a comment on one of my videos saying, hey, you should make a Halloween themed deck, and it was kind of too late in my lineup to kind of come up with a Halloween deck, although I have been working on one for next Halloween. But I say, you know what, I'm going to make one for Christmas, or at least let's say for the holiday season. So I have one. I'm calling it Red, Green, HoHoHo, because, I don't have much more creativity than that. And I want to share it with you today. So there were a few goals here. I know I wanted elves for Santa's elves. I know I wanted reindeer for Santa's reindeer. And I know I had to find a Santa equivalent for modern. So I think I did. And the lands, obviously, again, I'm using snow-covered lands and some other lands that are at least snow-themed in the art. To kind of fit with most of the theme here. I had a completely different version of this deck that was really all in on the theme. And it just didn't work. It just couldn't work. It was cute, but it didn't win, and I suffered many a night trying to make it work, and I just couldn't. So this is what worked better. I basically took an elves deck and I modified it. I splashed red, and let's take a look at Santa's elves. All right, let's just get into it. So, let's start off with the basics here. You have Elvish Mystic. That's a Santa's elf right there. It's gonna help you ramp up. Llanowar Elves as well, another Santa elf here, helping you to ramp, which is what allows us to play only 16 lands. We'll be getting there in a second. So these two elves are really what are going to help you ramp in your early game. You only need to have like one elf and one or two lands at the most to be confident in your opening hand. So they really, make things come together. At least for your ramp game. Of course, then you grow to Elvish Archdruid, which is a lord, has a lord-like effect. All your other elves get +1/+1, and you also can tap it to add 1 green for each elf you control. So you can think of it like the master elf. It's like the elf that's like making sure that all the other elves are doing their job and reaping all the benefits of those elves. So very corporate if you think about it. Then we have Bramblewood Paragon. So Bramblewood Paragon is pretty cool here because it kind of pumps, at least permanently pumps, every elf warrior creature that comes into the battlefield after it comes down onto the battlefield. So that's really cool. We have quite a few elf warriors in this deck, and Bramblewood Paragon helps, pump them up essentially, and also gives them trample, or at least for each creature that you control, there's a +1/+1 counter on it, gains trample, which is also very good when you're fighting your opponents with your Santa's elves. That trampling effect is going to come in handy. Of course, the artwork, it kind of seems like he's in a sandy, or he or she is in a I said sandy, which is stupid, a snowy type forest. I'm not sure. I'm just going to stretch that art to whatever my imagination thinks. Then we have Dwin's Elite, which is another cool elf. Definitely very powerful, especially in conjunction with Bramblewood Paragon. So when they come onto the battlefield, if you control another elf, you create a 1/1 elf warrior token, and this is an elf warrior as well. So both of them get pumped with Bramblewood Paragon on the battlefield already, which is again pretty darn good, if you ask me. It works out really well. Leads off into the next elf, which is Nettle Sentinel. You could kind of think this is like kind of Santa's bodyguard. All right, I'm sure even Santa needs a bodyguard, although maybe not the Santa that I picked for this deck. Nettle Sentinel is an elf warrior. It's mostly used to be abused when you're kind of comboing in your elf deck. In this case, we're not really comboing anything. It's just a 2/2 for 1, and almost every turn you're going to be casting a green spell, so it's going to be untapping anyway. And it's just an aggressive elf beater, essentially, and that's why I figured I needed more elves that cost very little, and Nettle Sentinel really kind of checked all those boxes. Topping off the curve of the elves, you have Bloodbraid Elf. Yeah, I was kind of thinking of Bloodbraid Elf being like kind of Mrs. Claus, but it didn't really work out because I don't know, just didn't really. I figured Mrs. Claus would have to be a legendary creature, and I couldn't find one that really worked well here. I mean, I did in my first deck, but that deck failed. So no Mrs. Claus in this deck, not this year anyway. Bloodbraid Elf, though, since we are playing red, very powerful elf, of course. I believe at one point it was an elf warrior and then became an elf berserker. I might be wrong there. Either way, unfortunately, it doesn't get punked with Bramblewood Paragon, but it's okay because Bloodbraid Elf is a very powerful card. We already know this in Modern. It's pretty well established in the Jund decks, and you know, I think it's a pretty good way to add pressure to your opponent. It gets pumped by your other creatures, in particular Elvish Archdruid. So overall, a great elf. You could kind of think of this as like, you know, Santa's like, I don't know, paramilitary elf. You know, he sends these in when kids are really being naughty and maybe putting up booby traps in their houses. Then that's when Santa sends in Bloodbraid Elf to take care of those naughty kids. So that would be it for the elves. Let's move on to Santa's reindeer. Again, I wanted to find reindeer or reindeer-like creatures that would do something at least somewhat useful in this deck. So I start off with Great Sable Stag, which is an elk, whatever, it's close enough, it has antlers. You know, just, you know, stretch your imagination a bit here. It has protection from blue and from black, and it can't be countered, which is pretty good, actually. Has some relevance, has quite a bit of relevance in Modern right now. When I was playing with this deck, or this iteration of this deck, you know, the ability to not be countered and the protection from black and blue came in handy quite a bit, and I'm posting up matches today. Yes, there are matches, 3 matches like always. I gotta stay consistent there, and yeah, I believe one of those matches has Great Sable Stag really sticking out and helping me win the game essentially. So very cool. Santa's reindeer right here. I'm also playing 2 Stampeding Elk Herd. Again, these look like reindeer to me, so we'll just call them reindeer. And this is kind of a card that's a bit more useful in games that are a bit more grindy. Helps you win those weird stalemates that you find yourself with other aggro decks where, you know, you can't really attack him but profitably, they can't attack him profitably. With Stampeding Elk Herd onto the battlefield, you know, your creature's getting trampled until end of turn, changes the math a bit, and it's a 5/5 in and of itself, so very useful here. Again, mostly for your grindy games. For games that are going to be much faster, you're going to probably side out Stampeding Elk Herd. So what about Santa Claus? So we have his elves, we have his reindeer. What about Santa? So again, I kind of had to find a Santa that made sense for Modern. And the only Santa that really made sense, and it was also green-red, was Claus, God of Destiny. So, okay, bear with me here. Alright, just bear with me. This is Magic. It's Magic the Gathering. It's a fantasy world. Santa Claus doesn't have to be a fat man, alright? So, in this case, he's not fat, he's just huge. He's, you know, as big as a mountain in this case, and it's Claus, God of Destiny. I'm playing 3 of them. I mean, you all know what Claus does, of course. It's really great to grind out games. I won quite a bit of games just because of Claus, you know, putting a real clock on my opponent while they tried to take care of the elves, which were also putting pressure on my opponents. And, you know, Claus is just great. It's also Graveyard Hate built into the main board, which is very useful. And you very often have Claus being a creature, meeting its devotion cost, because you have a bunch of creatures that have double green in their costs as well, which gets you to 7 pretty quickly. So 4/5 indestructible creature that also has a great effect at the beginning of your main phase every turn. Very powerful. I think it's great as a Santa creature, and yeah, it's also legendary, which kind of fits the bill there. I needed it to be legendary. It wouldn't make sense if it wasn't. So those are my creatures, at least 34 creatures in all, including Santa. So Santa's elves and his reindeer. So let's move on to the instance. I don't have any sorceries. So Collect the Company, kind of obviously. I think for a deck like this, most of our creatures are 3 or less, so we're gonna hit almost every time, and just helps you ramp into more threats, and very powerful here. Of course, so I'm playing 4 of. Next is Lightning Bolt. The earlier iterations of this deck didn't have Lightning Bolt. Can't do that. Just can't. It needs Lightning Bolt. It really, really badly needs Lightning Bolt. So I have 4 of here. And of course you have to pick the art that has kind of like a snow-like effect on it. So come on, let's be serious here. Then you have Scred. I was playing with 4 before. I cut it down to 2 when I added 4 Lightning Bolts. I think 2 is fine. I think 4 is a bit too much, especially since you could only target creatures with it. But I mean, listen, it fits the snow theme. I'm pretty sure that's snow in the background, and it's gonna profit off of your snow-covered lands, of course, to be able to take out bigger creatures that Lightning Bolt couldn't reach. So I think 2 of is perfectly fine, of course. If you really seriously are thinking of playing this deck, which of all the decks I've deck tech, this is the one exception where I'm not going to commit to buying all the cards. I mean, go for it. I mean, I would love to hear how you would change this deck, by the way, in the comment section down below. But I'm just putting out the disclaimer. Unlike every single other deck I've done so far on this channel, I'm not buying the physical cards for all of the cards in this deck, at least the ones that I'm missing. Just put it out there. That's my guarantee. For those of you that don't know, I always buy the cards of the decks, physical cards, usually in foil, well, actually almost always in foil, of the decks I'm about to deck tech, just to add one extra layer of authenticity that I'm not just deck teching decks for content. I'm serious about them when I'm sharing them with you. Anyway, so 2 Screds. Let's move on to the lands. So the lands I had a lot of fun with because we have a lot of snow-covered lands or lands with snow in them. And apart from Stomping Ground, which is really the joy kill here in terms of art, I couldn't find any art, beautiful art, but I couldn't find any art with snow in it. So I picked the one that was least red, or least red. It's the best I could do. So I'm running 2 Stomping Grounds. Carpulson Forests, by the way, or Carpulson Forest, is one of my most favorite land art in Magic, just overall. I mean, this is the season that I really enjoy. I live in Canada. I've been shoveling snow and blowing snow my entire life. So, you know, snow doesn't really bother me too much, and I just find the artwork for Carpulson Forest beautiful. I really, really do. So I'm running 2 of, you could change this number around, but I was running 4 before in those Stomping Grounds, but I really needed some way to fetch a dual colored land, so I had to cut these back and put in Stomping Grounds. But whatever, on theme, there's snow. Come on, you couldn't get much better than that. Of course, then you're running 4 Wooded Foothills, of course, for fetching. And this art is beautiful. It's perfect. It's completely on theme. You got snow, you got mountains, you got evergreens. I couldn't have asked for anything better in terms of land art, apart from Carpulson Forest. So you got 4 of those. And then you got 7 snow-covered forests and 1 snow-covered mountain. I think this number works pretty well. Overall, you don't need many mountains here. 1 is enough. You need more forests. So that's really it for the main board. Santa, his elves, and his reindeer, and then some instants that you really need, and all your lands that are more or less on theme. Apart from that, you got the sideboard. Yes, there is a sideboard. You still need a sideboard for a deck like this. I'm going pretty heavy on attacking lands of my opponents. I'm red-green, so there's a proclivity to be a bit more Haiti on lands, at least in the sideboard in this case, because I didn't have space for them in the main board. So I'm playing 3 Blood Moon, very, very easy to play Blood Moon in this deck, obviously, so definitely want to play 3, and 2 Cleansing Wildfire, just to add to the land destruction and getting some card draw as well, which I don't get much of in the main board. So a lot of land hate here, very useful against a lot of decks. Life Goes On for life gain. I mean, there is some life gain with Cloth is God of Destiny, of course, but this gets you a lot more. So if you're in a burn matchup or aggro or whatever, life Goes On is going to be very useful for you. And of course you have a lot of creatures and a lot of them die, so getting that 8 life trigger is not going to be hard at all. Then you got 3 Return to Nature, so destroy target artifact or enchantment or exile target card from a graveyard. So this kind of fits everything. I didn't want to think too much about what I'm putting into my sideboard. I think this is just kind of like a nice catch-all for a deck like this. I couldn't really find any art that was Christmas themed or snow themed, but whatever, that's besides the point. And then you have Veil of Summer. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to win against control decks, so 4 Veil of Summers is basically what you want here. I'm not regretting 4 Veil of Summers, at least in all the games I've played so far. So what do you think? This is my red-green HoHoHo deck. It's for the holidays. I'm going to have 3 matches posted up today, as with every other deck tech. I'd love to hear what you think, how you would change this up, because whatever ideas you give me, I'm definitely going to apply it to next year's holiday-themed, Christmas-themed deck, of because of course I'm gonna have to do it again. I have no choice. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. Again, just to touch on what I said in the middle of this video, I usually always buy the foils or all the cards in foil of all deck tech, just to show that I am serious about those decks. I really think you should actually try them. I'm not just doing it for content. I mean, I am doing it for content, but also because I actually believe in those decks. In this case, I'm not. If you have the cards, or it's cheap for you to get the cards, or do them online, do it. Just have some fun with it, but don't expect too much. This was the bare minimum I can get that would win enough games and also be on theme. But I would love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you prefer. If you want to support me on Patreon, I would really appreciate it. I want to give a big thank you to my current patrons for your support. Check the Patreon link in the description and check out all the cool tiers I've set up where I send you guaranteed rares and mythics every year as a thank you, non-bulk rares and mythics, so there's a lot of value there. So a little give and take. And yeah, thanks and have a good one.